Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, a loss to the Houston Rockets despite a monster performance from Kevin Durant in our first taste of Suns Rockets basketball. How'd this go wrong and what did we learn? Next.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Suns. I'm Brendon, Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen post-game on a Wednesday night, maybe Thursday morning, wherever you're finding us, whenever you're finding us. Don't forget, Locked On Suns is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button and do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer and get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Joining me, as always, from the Wild West Valley, my fellow Suns credentialed media member. How are we feeling on this final day of the first half of the regular season, Ben Garcia?
I'm fine. A part of me was like, if they get a win tonight, we could talk about, hey, maybe they carry that momentum over. You're ending on a high. You're talking about the best win of the season. And, they give it away. And no Devin Booker, no Grayson Allen, no Bradley Beal, some sorenesses and a hurt toe. So got to make sure we're extra careful with those when the season is, I don't even know if it's hanging in the balance anymore. But, yeah, it's like a little bit more sense of urgency, especially with giving about a week off over the next couple of days. But, what are you going to do?
It felt like the Suns had it and Houston didn't until the very end. That was, even on the broadcast, they were kind of saying, the Rockets are maybe looking ahead to their break after such a strong beginning of the year, and the Suns actually have some energy. And then, of course, that did flip. But, hey, when you're expecting the loss, as I was against Houston, I thought they could win last night. I did not think they would beat the Rockets. Swallows it. It goes down a little easier, a little bit of an easier pill to swallow. But let's get to it. Moment of the game, as we always start with. I'm going to go with a couple. You start us off, actually, Ben. I think yours is earlier in the game than mine, so we should hit that.
Yeah, my at this point, the Suns were up 57-51 after the first half, right? And you are curious how they're going to respond in the third quarter because they've had some troubles with it, and respond to it poorly. They did. They immediately let the lead evaporate because of, at first they go ahead and they get a brief jumper, another one after that. So they go up 61-51, but then after that it's turnover, easy bucket to the basket, turnover, 1 foot dunk by Amen Thompson, 5 foot jumper from Sengun. Like, it's not only were the Rockets cutting into the lead, but the Suns, and I'm taking this from EJ, was none of it was hard. It was all incredibly easy to get back in that game. It wasn't like they were hitting contested jumpers. The Suns were just turning the ball over. Kevin Durant included in one of those where he was awesome tonight, so he's allowed to have 1 or 2 bad turnovers. But the team just gave the ball away in the third quarter. It's early in that third quarter. Did not make them earn it. They were not hitting tough shots. And once again, they just came out flat in that third quarter. And I don't know what to say about it anymore. It's just a trend at this point where good teams don't do that.
This is not a great offensive team that they were facing tonight. They gave up 119 points. They are the 11th offense in the NBA, but really that is held up by exactly what you just described, as well as offensive rebounds. They're the best offensive rebounding team in the NBA. I wouldn't even say that second chance points really killed the Suns tonight, though. They gave up 17 offensive rebounds, but it didn't feel like that. It felt like these fast breaks where they got 25 fast break points. The Rockets did 28 total points off of turnovers and 64 points in the paint.
64. That's the big one.
And yeah, it's like, when you say that they weren't earning it, I agree. EJ said it like you mentioned. But what sucks to sit with about that is they can't really earn it if you defend them well. They don't have a Kevin Durant on their team. So if you play good defense against this Houston team, you're going to, especially when you already have a lead, like, you should be able to win it. So to allow them to just get comfortable and come back the way that they did was disappointing, because the Suns did have them right where you would want them, I think, typically most nights.
Well, what's also frustrating is if the Suns would have won this game, it would have been their best one of the season and one of their few wins against a team that is young, up and coming, get to the rim, play upbeat, play fast, and the Suns would have done it.
Everybody's basically in. Yeah.
And the Suns would have done it shorthanded, and it just didn't happen tonight. And it just gets frustrating because it's almost like the first half of games don't matter, even if the Suns are up, because I almost expect them to give away the lead in the third quarter. It was like the Suns' third quarter this year is starting to look eerily similar to the Suns' fourth quarter last year, where you're hoping they're going into the fourth quarter with a 20-point lead because you know they're going to give up 15 off the bat. And
yeah, but what's interesting in this one is they ended up actually leaving the third quarter up 8. They came back against the comeback, and they just collapsed in the fourth quarter. So that's where I think we should go next. Once they basically showed that sign of weakness and Houston got comfortable, that continued into the fourth quarter where they outscored the Suns 35-19. And I have a couple, one at the beginning of the fourth, one at the end of the fourth that we should dive into. The beginning of the fourth was Tyus Jones coming in and turning the ball over 2 times immediately. And, you know, again, it's beating a dead horse a little bit, and I don't want to blame a loss on any one player ever. He actually had 3, I should say. He had 3 turnovers within the first minute and 12 seconds of being in the game. This is the guy who's supposed to have solved this problem for you, right? Like, and what's frustrating, especially about some of these, was they were entry passes to Kevin Durant, the tallest guy on the court. I guess not when Bol Bol's in there, but you know what I mean. It shouldn't be hard to throw Kevin Durant an entry pass. I get that he gets pushed off of his spots at times when it's Dillon Brooks, a strong dude and everything, but he raises an arm up. You should be able to, you know, it's like, you know, it's warm up for a pitcher at that point. You're just getting to the catcher's mitt. It shouldn't be that difficult of a task. And then you look up, he has the most turnovers of his season for the Suns, 6, and 3 in that fourth quarter when you really needed to just take care of the ball and you had an 8-point lead and should have been able to take the game home. Fast forward from there, my other one is very, very late in this game. You had Kevin Durant get to the rim for one of his many dunks at where was this? The last dunk that he had. And then right after that, he takes the kind of quick pull-up 3 where it just felt like he was worn out at that point.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying that to criticize him.
No. He played 40 minutes last night against the Grizzlies in a loss. And tonight, how many minutes was it tonight that he played? 42. So just really brief, 42 minutes. It's 82 minutes for a 36-year-old player. I'm not zero blame for a guy that gets tired at the end of the night. That falls on the shoulders of the guys that didn't play tonight and were taking days off. Like, he's looked gassed at end of games recently. I mean, if there's anyone that needs a week off, with that being, of course, the All-Star game that no one really tries in, but it's Kevin Durant. It's the only guy that's earned a day off who, I mean, he's forced to play 40-plus minutes a night because not only, even in games that they win, they can't put anybody away. So, he looked gassed towards the end of games, and that's the first thing it goes, your jumper.
I had the first quarter up when I was trying to find this, so I have the times for everybody. It's 2.5 minutes or so. They cut it to 3 with that dunk, and it ended up not being his last dunk of the game, so I just want to clarify. I didn't, he had one at the very, very end, but that cut it to 3. Then what happened next is Dillon Brooks hit another 3. All night, Ben, it felt like they had no idea that Dillon Brooks he's not an elite shooter. It's not peak Klay Thompson, but you got to close out to him. There were so many times where Dillon Brooks was open in this game, and on this team, he's actually one of their best shooters because they got Amen Thompson and all these guys who can't shoot. You should be able to keep track of the one who can, and he makes a 3 on the other end. And I think at that point, KD was kind of deflated. He's like, we got it within 3. I'm, getting to the basket. I don't even do that every night. I'm doing everything tonight and putting this team on my back. And then Brooks makes that 3, and he's just like, all right, we're down 6. There's 2 minutes left. Like, this just isn't happening. I kind of have to have this desperation heave. And I think that's exactly what he did. So, yeah, definitely not a criticism. It is to illustrate that you cannot possibly ask this dude to do more. And that moment just kind of symbolized where it's like, if this wasn't enough, then what is?
Well, you're saying, you had said as well, that's a point I made last night too, where it was like he had 30 plus points, he reached 30,000, and it still wasn't enough. I mean, that's what it's been like for these games. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker play well. Devin Booker didn't necessarily have a super efficient scoring night last night, but Kevin Durant played well. He played well tonight, and for most of the game, they played well, but sloppy defensive adjustments and turning the ball over. Like, it's the same song every game that we're talking about. We're not breaking new ground here. And, it's frustrating because I hate to see a guy like Kevin Durant, who has a hand in some of the Suns' issues this year. He's definitely not the front runner of it all, but to see the facial construction of Kevin Durant when Brooks hits that three, like, it's just deflating. It's just another like stab in the heart of Suns fans of what we've been watching all year.
We have more here, I think, in terms of Durant to get to with our lessons of the game. So we'll jump to that coming up next. First, today's show is brought to you by Wayfair. After the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little TLC. It's always nice to declutter, refresh your space, and help get back into the routine for 2025. Whether you're tidying up, clearing out, or just want to give your space a new look to start the year, Wayfair has everything you need, all within your budget. Let's see. Oh, I know what I'd tell you guys about with Wayfair. The chair that I got that I absolutely love that we had for years. It was a perfect, comfy little, like the right size, the right color. Wayfair, that's what they're perfect at. They just have everything. They have endless to pick from, endless to choose from. If you have like, there's like a little area in my apartment, in my house that I don't quite know what to put, Wayfair is going to have you covered. Something for every style and every home. Makes it easy to tackle your New Year home goals with endless inspiration for every space. So give your home the refresh it might need with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's Wayfair, WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. All right, Ben, let's keep it rolling here. Don't forget to sign up for the Locked On Suns daily newsletter if you have not already at LockedOnDaily.com. Great content. Stay up to date with the Suns, the NBA, and fantasy basketball. All in one place, free for you, supports us big time. Okay. Let's just keep that KD conversation going. My lesson of the game is that this is an example, this game, of why you do not piss Kevin Durant off, why you do not ever risk ruining a good thing when you have this player on your team, because he can do this even against a team where you would normally look on the Houston sideline and say, they actually got some guys who might be able to have something to say about Kevin Durant. Dylan Brooks is big physical defender, and then Thompson's young and athletic, even Eason or Tate, some of these longer guys, and yet he still did this. 15 of 22 from the field, 37 points, 9 assists. Yes, he had some turnovers. On a night like this with no Booker, no Beal, no Grayson Allen, I'm not even going to sweat the turnovers at all. He was the only player on this Suns team to be positive in the plus-minus category tonight. The only player on this team. To jeopardize that is absolutely insane. I would say that at some point I'm going to move on from what happened at the deadline, but I can't make that promise because it was so irrational and ridiculous. And he keeps reminding us of what a special talent he is, that he can almost beat this Rockets team single-handedly. And yet we're facing down a summer where he might go to this Rockets team, Ben.
It's
infuriating.
Yeah, one of the things I was texting you about is during this game was, and this is a conversation for tomorrow, but I'll get into briefly what I was kind of texting you. It was just like, I said, I wonder if the Rockets would even want Kevin Durant for one reason and one reason only, just his age. He's clearly awesome in every other category. But like getting to your point then of how efficient he was tonight and how great he was last night, like I know people say like, oh, vintage KD. I don't know how far removed Kevin Durant really is from his prime. Like Defensively, he's not the exact same player, but he's still pretty good defensively. And then offensively, he hasn't skipped much of a beat. He's still really efficient. He's coming off of a 50, 45, 90 season, a couple 50, 40, 90 season, I think a season and a half ago. Like some of the things that you're saying as well is like, it's frustrating that the Suns might have to move on from Kevin Durant because he's still an amazing player and you wish you could just retool things around him. But his longevity, and I mentioned this last night, I think rivals that being of LeBron James, who's still awesome. And, LeBron's longevity is probably untouched. But if you told me Kevin Durant was this awesome, at least offensively for the next 4 seasons, I wouldn't be in crazy surprise because his game isn't predicated on athleticism. It's predicated off of he's just insanely talented. He's able to score from anywhere. He handles the ball still pretty well. And so, that's kind of one of the things, if you really just want to transition it over to that is like, it's just the lesson of it is just like, man, Kevin Durant is still amazing. He's still a top, like, for the next 5 seasons, yes, I'd rather have this other player than Kevin Durant. But right now, in a game 7 scenario, Jason Tatum or Kevin Durant, I'd rather have Kevin Durant. Like, it just would. Like, yeah, for the next 5 seasons, sure, totally different. But he's still a top 7 player in the world. And it's just frustrating at this point where, like, it does feel like the team at times is letting him down. And I think that gets squarely pointed at a guy like Devin Booker, who's got soreness, or Grace Allen, who's got soreness. And I know you defend Bradley Beal at least a little bit for his injury, but like, it's a toe. Like, there's 1 game left in the week and you're just going to leave Kevin Durant out to dry. Like, we just can't keep doing that. And it's just frustrating because as much as I do want to blame Kevin Durant for some of the issues this year, he's not the leader of it all. But it is tough to see a legend go out there and like hang his head because someone doesn't get out and defend Dylan Brooks, who isn't even an amazing 3-point shooter, shoots 38% from the field. So I feel you, man. Pissing off Kevin Durant's never a good idea, and the Suns did that, and they're being shown what they had and what they were potentially trying to shove out the door.
Yeah, it's a reminder of all that stuff, right? Like, it's a reminder of why you acquired him. It's a reminder of the fact that the hope you can still have that it could work if they are able to keep him and reset. It's a reminder of whatever they're going to lose if it does go that way. That's kind of what it was just like to have this game come less than a week after that deadline. And I know you talked about the milestone yesterday too and everything. It's just like this kind of bad, I don't even want to say bad luck, but like bad timing. It just, oh, great. Yeah, 30,000. Cool. Well, the next 5,000 will be in some other uniform because the owner pissed him off. Great. So it's a bummer. But the other thing I think we can hit on here is just how these teams matched up. And one thing, because it's their first time. We'll see this Rockets team again twice more. Second straight year where they're bunched up a bunch of matchups down the stretch, kind of right before or right after the All-Star break. But I thought one interesting aspect of this one, mostly because of injuries probably, but Bol did get the start again tonight, and the Suns closed they started huge with Royce and Bol and Durant and Richards and Tyus, but then they closed small. They had Royce guarding Şengün. They had Durant on Thompson, if I'm remembering right, and it didn't end up really mattering because the Suns kind of beat themselves in the end. But Şengün did dominate down the stretch of the fourth quarter, or I guess in the beginning of the fourth quarter to create that opening for their comeback. He did have his way. So it felt like, unfortunately, whatever lineups were out there, Suns didn't really have much of an answer, and that's a lot of how it felt last season when these teams played.
Yeah, I know Suns fans, and I am as well, a little frustrated with the lack of minutes for Ryan Dunn, and even you texted me this, where like Ryan Dunn wasn't necessarily playing stellar, but I think the answer or the argument to that, and you know it as well, is like, yeah, but at least he's bigger than the guys on the floor that they have out there. Now, not to say he's necessarily an offensive threat, but at least he's bigger, right? And, what we're learning is, and I saw Coach Bud say this last night, he's like, he's just throwing things on a dart on the wall to see what sticks. Because Bull getting the start and had the most fantastic 7 for 18 night. Like, I looked at the box score, I was like, what the heck? This guy's 7 for 18. Every time I looked up, he was getting a bucket. But it feels like Dunn is going to get his chance again, and it might even come fairly soon. But it looks like to me, and I wasn't the only person that caught up on this observation with Coach Bud, but he is just giving minutes to guys who are trying really hard. Whether they deserve it or not, they're out there. Like Ty Washington, he was 1 for 8 last night. He's diving on the floor. He's all over the court. He's running down the floor faster with the ball than Tyus Jones is. Like, now, I just feel like he's taking those minutes away from the wrong guys. It probably should come from Tyus Jones minutes and not Ryan Dunn's, but it's clear Bud is just pulling out all the stops, man.
And if we're talking about guys who tried, why is Monte Morris not playing? I know it's such a tiny thing. Like, that's not going to be the difference between a win and a loss, but it's a little confusing to me. Yeah.
I'd rather have Monte out there than Tyus at these points, because at least Monte's
forget the kids. I'd rather have Monte out there than Tyus.
Yeah. I like the spark that both guys are adding. Like Ty Washington last night was just objectively awful offensively, but at least he was like Campaign years ago when Chris Paul got injured and Campaign came in and ran the offense for that Denver Nuggets series. Like, the Suns at least sped it up. And that's what it felt like with Ty Washington, and it had a little bit more groove to the offense, but it just seems like that's what Bud's doing. But at some point, those minutes have got to start coming from Tyus, because defensively, he's just getting bullied. And you can't have a lineup ever of Ty and Tyus on the court.
Yeah, they were playing Gillespie and Ty together, who are also both kind of small. And the Tyus defense thing is like so obvious that I'm almost more inclined to keep talking about the offense, because that's the area he's supposed to be good at, and he's not even playing well on that end. It's almost like, if that's not working, that should really be the thing that makes the change come, right? If he's not good on defense, well, we kind of expected that. If he's turning the ball over 6 times and he's 4 of 11, it's like, what are we doing?
I just can't believe it's so easy for teams to hunt down Tyus. Like, the Suns should be a little bit more equipped for not every single time down the floor teams are just hunting Tyus Jones. Like, it shouldn't be that easy, but it is. So, I don't know what you're supposed to do about that.
I have one last question for Ben before we round out the show. We got to everything in just 2 segments, but I'm going to throw a surprise your way, Ben, after one more quick break. All right, let's wrap it up. Question for you, Ben. We don't have a cute name for this one, but I don't say this in jest. I don't say this sarcastically or to be cute. The Houston Rockets, to me, are one of the most obvious and asset-rich teams that we will be talking about if there is a Kevin Durant trade this summer. We have now gotten an up-close look at this team. We obviously can see their roster. I guess my question is, do you agree with what I just said? Does this feel like the team you'd be looking at? And does what they have appeal to you enough that you would explore this? And what would you want?
Yeah, that was something I put out on Twitter as well. Like, so you're going to get back VanVleet in any deal because you have to make the money work. But at that point, I saw someone reply to my tweet and was like, well, you got to get one of Şengün or Amen Thompson. I'm like, they're not trading Şengün for Kevin Durant. Like, it's going to be
I actually think the Şengün part of it is not as crazy as you might think, but it's, to me, maybe even beyond like him being their best player right now. I think it's because his position, they don't have anyone else that's like a young you gotta just, if you're trying to win a championship because you're getting Kevin Durant, you can't trade a guy and have nothing to, that's like what the Lakers are dealing with. So that is more to me, but you're right. I don't think he's going anywhere. And Amen is untouchable. Like, come on, it's not even a conversation.
Exactly. Amen is untouchable too. So what are you getting back? I think I just want a plethora of picks. I want my Phoenix Suns picks back. I guess I want Jabari Smith, who's a good player. Like, he's a 6'10", 43% from the field. I think he's 35% from three. I was looking at his statistics today. He helps add some defense to the Suns team because the Suns defensively are so poor. So, I like the Jabari Smith ad, and I would love the grabbing a bunch of other picks. But after that, like, I'm just trying to be honest about what the Suns would get back. Van Fleet, Jabari Smith. Is there a third player that you can even get off that? Is it a Dylan Brooks? Like, are you taking back a Brooks' contract? How much does he make? I thought he only made 20.
Well, yeah, but if you're adding Van Vliet and Brooks
Van Vliet's
and
32.
a top 5 pick, you're getting too high.
That's too much. That's too much.
I think, maybe you could you get one of their smaller, I don't know how they're going to feel about Reed Shepherd. They're not going to want to get rid of, bail on him soon, but it might be like him or a pick. I don't know.
Cam Whitmore, maybe. It's a guy as well.
Yeah. I like Cam Whitmore. I've actually nerded out about this Houston team a lot. When I was doing more national NBA coverage, I watched this team a bunch last year. So I really like this team, and I think that there is a lot here. But I think what you're assembling is kind of the package, right? Money-wise, like, I know people might say, well, it doesn't have to be Van Vliet. Şengün, Green, Brooks, those guys, if it were to be after July 1st in some way, shape, or form, then Şengün and Green are on new contracts. You can get there a little bit more easily. You could do like Green and Brooks and Smith and you get to the money or something. But I, think it would be before the draft because the Suns would want their own pick in this upcoming year's draft as part of this. That's kind of the starting point. And then, Van Vliet's kind of would make sense, I suppose, in a post Durant type of situation.
Well, it would also be a post Tyus Jones situation too, because Van Fleet's the same height. So it'd probably be.
But like, if I say it that way,
Tate,
right?
Maybe too.
Maybe, yeah. He's not young anymore. He's like 30. But so it's Van Vliet, Smith, and picks.
Van Vliet.
It's just not. It's not a lot to get excited about, man.
No,
you're talking about the 12th
but
overall pick, Jabari Smith Jr., and a guy who is in past his prime and has been injured this season in Fred Van Vliet. Like,
he's also not very efficient. He's not, like, Van Fleet doesn't really do anything really well. Like,
he's just money.
He's literally just money, and he's just a souped up Tyus Jones. Like, I think that's what I would put it. He's just a more expensive Tyus Jones. I just don't know who else you're getting, man. You're not getting Jalen Green. Like, we have to be fair, guys. Like, we have to be honest.
Well, I don't want Jalen Green. He's not that good to me.
But, you're not getting Jalen Green. They're not going to give up on such a young player still, so it doesn't matter. But people might like Jalen Green.
They would get rid of Jalen Green because he's not that good.
You think so?
He's shooting like
so? He's
38%.
Still 23. He's the former second overall pick in the draft.
They've been talking about trading him before, and they just gave him kind of a disrespectful contract, like way under what I think he would want. So I think they would absolutely trade him. If I'm Matt Ishbia, I'm saying no. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I love that you're saying Matt Ishbia because he's not the GM, but it's funny because he's the one making the deal.
Yeah, you don't have to pretend,
It's Cam Whitmore maybe. No, I would have to see what Cam Whitmore's money is because I wasn't prepared for this part. But you know what?
It's pretty small. He was a pick in the 20s.
Yeah, but okay. So Cam Whitmore, Jabari Smith, Van Vliet, and some picks. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And I got to be honest with you, that's not really that far away from Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, because like both those guys are clearly very good players, but like it's not that far away from that package. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I like Cam Whitmore, 6'7", lengthy guy, plays with some edge to him, and I like the idea of getting Jabari Smith, 6'10", pretty good player actually. And then I don't know, like if you could pry a Reed Shepherd, a Jabari Smith, and a Van Vliet and some picks, I guess I'd do that. I just don't like. I look around the NBA and I'm like, who wants KD? Like, and not in terms of like who wants KD, like everyone does, but the Rockets being able to have my own picks back and have a little bit of a do-over, it just feels a lot better. Like next year, because then you and I are doing a show and we're like, hey, listen, we're below the second apron. You have some assets back. You still have a very aggressive owner. Like that's what I'm buying into. I'm not necessarily buying into the players, although I like Smith and I like Whitmore. Van Vliet, I mean, I guess we need a starting point guard. So,
Sure.
But like here, I think of it like this too, man. A starting lineup next year of Beal, Booker, probably Smith, Whitmore, and you go get a center. Like you're below the second apron at that point. I think of it like that. Like that is a fun team, and I do think that's a playoff team. And then you wait another year, and Bradley Beal's contract's expiring, I think, at that point. And you have that's 2 years, right? So this is 3 years. Okay, at that point, you still only have 2 years left of Bradley Beal.
I know.
All right.
I know. We can't talk about
the
Beal contract.
I'm trying to spin it somewhat positively, but like at that point, Beal has 2 years left on his deal, right?
I agree with you. I don't know if Whitmore's a starter and all that, but like, let's say it's Van Vliet, Booker,
well,
Smith,
Whitmore's a starter on this team.
Oh,
Ryan
and
Dunn.
Richards or something, whatever it might be.
Okay, so
like, I agree. Like, it's a soft landing, but I think I wanted to also illustrate this to not get over, assume something's happening that's not, but also just to kind of be realistic that even if this team, because they have the Suns pick and because they have some interesting young players, if that ends up being like, it's gonna feel like a letdown, whatever the trade is, I guess is sort of what I'm trying to say. And I hate to put it that way, but like the idea of what you could get always falls, I think, a little bit short. Like even ask Nets fans, like you just mentioned, the day that happened, people were like, did the Suns give up too much? Ask Nets fans how they feel about what they got back. They're like, that was nothing. We don't even care. It doesn't even matter what we got back because we don't have a superstar and our team's miserable in no man's land. And, that's the kind of margin between a satisfactory trade and a disappointing one.
Well, think of it like this. You have a lineup next year. I think you still go get a center and Nick Richards becomes your backup, but just for sake of argument.
Yeah.
Ryan Dunn, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Jabari Smith, and Nick Richards. And then on the bench, Cam Whitmore, Royce O'Neal's still there. You go from old and aging to kind of spunky, younger, and fun. And I think that next year will be a lot more fun to watch than it is this year. And then, the very next year, we have another draft, and then you're 2 years at the Beal contract. Maybe you can move him, maybe not. Maybe you buy him out. I don't know. But the options, I think it'll be better when we get there. And this time next year, we won't be happy that Durant's gone, but we'll be happy that there's a little bit more of a future to look towards. Like right now, the future just looks murky.
That's what I was just going to say. What's funny is I can totally imagine a trade like that happening. And then we get to like October, November, December, we're watching this team play. And we're like, what would be awesome with this group? Kevin Durant. Right? Like, that's kind of what I was getting at in that last segment too, where you watch a game like this and you're like, man, if they had been able to build around it differently and KD can still do this, it's just like, what are you going to do?
I think the Suns next year.
Ands and buts.
I think the Suns next year, with a Houston Rockets deal, could be a top 6 seed in the West. Now, a 6 seed probably. And you go to the first round and you take a team of the 3 seed to 6 games. And then the next year after that, like, we still have to remember Booker's really young. They still have an aggressive owner that's going to learn from some of his mistakes. They'll get some of their picks back. Like, they'll get below the second apron. It's not all doomsday. And that's kind of what.
Yeah, I guess
that's
the other part of
what
you would have would be the guy you draft with your own pick and the guy you draft with Cleveland's pick if you go that route, right? So, like, that's also 2
exactly
guys. So, yeah,
and then, we'll just be at the summer league and we'll get some custom jerseys of whoever it is we're rocking, and it'll be a good time, man. It'll be a good time.
I will not be overpaying on a custom. I'll wait till, their release. You can do that. Okay, so yeah, I think it might be good to check in on some of these teams as the schedule moves forward, as we see them and say, hey, could this be, what did we think? Everything like that. All right, that'll wrap us up, though. Hit follow, subscribe if you have not already. We have one more episode to round out the week heading into NBA All-Star Weekend. We'll also be right here for you with Kevin Durant in the All-Star Game and everything else going on when we get to next week. So hit follow or subscribe if you have not already. Become an everydayer, and we will catch you tomorrow.